All right. Good morning, Governor. Thank you for being here, visiting our offices here at Accenture, and thank you, guests. It's really an honor and a privilege to have you here in downtown Los Angeles. I'll be brief. I just want to start by saying 50% of all venture capital in the United States flows through California. Half of the world's 20 largest companies, California. There's a reason for that. From advanced technology to biotech to renewables, California leads the world, and innovative companies want to be here. It's not accidental that innovation has flourished here. Partnerships between the public and private sector are commonplace here, and there's a reason for that, and it's not because it can be 65 degrees here for most of the year. It requires the conditions for that to happen, and Governor, I want to thank you for your unrelenting focus to ensure that technology like AI, things that the world needs to solve the big problems, that you're leading the way and that's happening right here in California as it should. And thank you for allowing companies like Accenture to continue working with the state to tackle those hard problems and have an enduring impact. I travel around the world and I work with governments of all different types that want to learn more and adopt digital technologies. They want to be innovative. And I start with California. And that's not because I call California my home. It's because there is something special here in California, and that is that people want to come here to be creative. Companies want to come here to be creative, to build the things that solve the big problems. And California is a world leader in that. We turn the bold ideas into that big, long-lasting impact. And so again, it's my pleasure to be here, and I will turn it over to Tino Cuellar, who is the president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Thank you very much.
Good morning, and thank you, Mark. You know, 115 years ago, my organization was founded by Andrew Carnegie with one singular purpose. After he'd spent all this time building libraries around the world, he wanted to make an investment in making peace and cooperation across countries more effective. And he came to understand that that involved the improvement of governance, how it is that democracies worked as well. Today, our organization works in multiple countries, but with one singular purpose: how to make the world a little bit more effective at cooperating and its governance more effective at responding to the needs of people. Here in California, we have an enormous opportunity, and my organization, Carnegie, has been pleased to partner with the state of California to take the conversation about democracy to the next level. We wanted to not only ask, how do you protect democracy? How do you make it work effectively? But also, what is the frontier? How do you engage citizens in a different way on the hard problems that government is facing, like rebuilding Los Angeles in a way that is effective and responsive to the needs of all Angelinos? What can we learn from this terrible disaster that has played out here? The answer to that question is found, interestingly enough, sometimes in the hearts and the minds of people all over the state of California. And the question that we've been asking ourselves as we help design a program for the state of California to scale up is, how do you select people to have meaningful conversations, not just the quick soundbite, not just the quick response to a pollster, but the depth that you get when you're having an honest conversation, listening to disconfirming ideas, asking how to leverage your own wisdom and insight. How do you then take those conversations and make them actual input into the decisions of elected representatives and leaders and executive branch officials, integrate that with expert scientific knowledge? And then, how do you use that experience to make sure the citizens who participate learn something and go back to their communities and spread that knowledge as they go? Now, as I've seen this project scale up and seen the interest from the governor and his team, I've been struck by three things that really make this meaningful. The first is, anybody who cares about democracy should know that democracy has a crisis of delivering sometimes. It's not enough to live in a democracy. We have to ask, how can it be more responsive more quickly to the needs of people to build things and to have them respond to their needs? Second, can we learn from the technology around us and not make this all about technology, but use technological tools to improve deliberation? And last, can we make it so that the people who participate in these dialogues don't just feel good about it, but get tangible, clear indications that their input and their ideas are being acted on by their representatives? So for all those reasons, it's been a real privilege to have my organization, the Carnegie Endowment, be a part of this from day one. And now I'd like to introduce somebody who's done terrific work showcasing how this can work around the world, and that is Audrey Tang, who is Taiwan's Cyber Ambassador at Large. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you. I'm Audrey Tang, Taiwan's first digital minister and now cyber ambassador. 10 years ago, in 2015 in Taiwan, we entered the cabinet with this very simple idea that efficiency and engagement do not have to be a trade-off. Through participation, we can actually make government much more efficient. And in the short span of the first 6 years, since I went into the cabinet as a full minister in charge of digital participation, the approval rate increased from 9% to over 70%. We shortened the tax filing from hours to minutes, and we overcame the pandemic without a single day of citywide lockdown. And all this is not my idea or really anyone's idea, but rather ideas from the Taiwanese population. And I'm really, really happy to see that over the past 2 years, the team here in California took that idea and amplified it with generative AI. Because Gen AI, for the first time, can accurately summarize people's common ideas and discover the uncommon ground despite polarization. And for the first time, generative AI can help closing the loop by going back to the actual statements proposed by a citizen saying, now the government is doing this because of these words you said and resonated with. So I'm very happy to keep helping the state of California and also building what we call pro-social media, not the anti-social corner of social media, but social media that really give the voice, choice, and a stake to everyone involved. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce the State Transportation Secretary, Secretary Omishakin.
Good morning, everybody. Tokes Omishakin, Transportation Secretary, part of Governor Gavin Newsom's cabinet team. So here to share a little bit of the perspective from transportation on this topic we're here today to talk about. Not only the efficiency of government, but how government can become more effective, and also how government can engage better. Two things I want to briefly talk about. Number one, what we've been doing in the past, and then the sort of renaissance, the takeoff that we've also seen in the last 18 months since Governor Newsom signed an executive order on generative AI. First of all, some of the things we've been doing in the past. Before this responsibility, I was the Caltrans director. And I know for a fact that every major project that you start at Caltrans takes anywhere from 12 to 14 years to get from start to completion. From start to completion, 12 to 14 years, meaning if a child is in kindergarten today and we start a project today, that child will be in college before that project is done, any major project. So the governor challenged us as a part of SB1 many years ago to continue to identify ways to find efficiencies in how we do our work. As a part of SB1 also, there was a $100 million efficiency savings requirement. In that requirement, every single year, we've exceeded that $100 million requirement, many years doubling, and in some cases tripling the efficiencies that we've, and savings that we found to get projects out to our taxpayers more quickly. So delivering projects more efficiently and effectively from Caltrans has been a priority. Number two, as far as some of the things that we've done in the past, the DMV has been a shining star, an example. Steve Gordon, the director there, has really been focused on identifying ways to deliver better service to customers. Any customer that walked into a DMV 6 years ago compared to walking into a DMV today, it will tell you it's a completely different experience. Those wait times significantly shorter. Part of the reason why is because we've moved so many things into a digital platform. 6 years ago, there were only roughly half a dozen, or a dozen actually, a dozen transactions that you could do online, only 12. Today, there are 50 transactions that you can start online at the DMV and complete. More than 40% of vehicle registrations also happen online today. Those are significant jumps from 5 or 6 years ago at the DMV. So a lot of advancement and a lot of improvement. One more example from the DMV, we were just talking about it with the governor, is the mobile driver's license. We now have 1.4 million people in California who have their driver's license in a mobile format. 600,000 are with Google, another 112,000 are with Samsung, and then another 600,000 roughly with the DMV wallet. So a lot of advancements and improvement and effectiveness in delivering services both at Caltrans and at the DMV. Now, specifically to the exciting announcement from the governor's signing of an executive order in September of 2023, by the way, one of the first governors in the country to do so, we were excited from the transportation side to be a part of launching California into this from the government space. The two projects that we're going to take on, number one, traffic management is number one. Number two, vulnerable users of the transportation system. From a traffic management standpoint, California has more super commuters than any other state in the country. More than 300,000 people in our state travel 90 minutes in one direction. So you're talking about 3 hours a day people spending in traffic. So we want to use generative AI to identify the bottlenecks and solutions to be able to address those bottlenecks along our transportation system throughout the state. And I can't think of a better tool to support what staff, our engineering and traffic staff already do. Sometimes what takes months to do, it could take 2 or 3 months to identify solutions sometimes. 2 to 3 months will turn into 2 to 3 days of work once we start to use the generative AI tools to help us identify the problems more uniquely and come up with solutions to address those traffic congestion points. And finally, the vulnerable users of our transportation system, people who are walking and biking in California. I'll tell you, a lot of people don't know this fact, but nearly 10 people a day die using the transportation system in our state. Nearly 30% of them are vulnerable users. So nearly 3 in 10 a day is somebody either walking or biking. So this is a critical issue for us to address on our transportation system. Our numbers can only be compared with Texas, by the way. They're the only other state that has a number that's above 4,000 as far as traffic fatalities. So it's an important issue. I was excited when the governor said he wanted transportation to be part of the initial outbreak to launch this using generative AI. And I'm looking forward to the tools that we will be able to come up with and solutions we'll be able to identify to address traffic fatalities in the state and specifically the vulnerable users of our transportation system in California. So again, thank you everybody for being here. Look forward to any questions that may come later. But next, I want to introduce a new colleague that the governor has recently appointed, Secretary of GovOps, Nick Medeiros. Nick?
Secretary. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you for having me. As Secretary Omishakin mentioned, I'm Nick Medeiros. I'm the Secretary of Government Operations. Our agency's mission is to focus always on ways we can improve our service to Californians, to make government work better. That's our charge from the governor. And under Governor Newsom's leadership, the state has become a leader in using the latest technology to improve government service. GovOps, which includes the California Department of Technology as well as the Office of Data and Innovation, another creation of Governor Newsom, has been helping state employees to harness the latest tools so that they can work more efficiently and effectively on behalf of Californians. As Secretary Omishakin mentioned, since the governor issued his generative AI executive order in 2023, the state has run under the leadership of GovOps 8 proofs of concept across government to experiment with the use of Gen AI to see if we can harness this technology to improve government service. One of those involved my prior department, the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, which administers 42 different tax and fee programs on behalf of the state of California. As you can imagine, it's complicated to know about one tax program, as all of you who just filed your tax returns can probably appreciate. It's very complicated to know about 42 tax and fee programs. And so what Gen AI, the tool that was developed, what Gen AI allowed our call center operators to do is to leverage the tool so that they could more quickly and more effectively answer taxpayer questions as they called in. It would listen along to the call in a secure environment and immediately search through thousands and thousands of pages of California tax law to suggest answers to the operators. It's especially helpful for those call center operators who are newer in their jobs. And using this next generation assistant cuts down on call time, allows for the call center operators to more easily take notes, which immediately go into the taxpayer's files so that we can, next time they call, if they have to call again, it will bring up their prior conversation, and allows us to leverage the team members that we have and keep others who may be doing collections or audits, keep them doing their regular work instead of getting on the phones. And we're taking the lessons that we learned and we can use those across the state's call centers. GovOps is also, through the California Department of Technology, working on developing the first in the nation state digital assistants with the state's highest security managed cloud environment. No state data leaves the state's secure environment, and the pilot's onboarding currently 8 state departments to test how Gen AI can be used as a productivity tool to summarize and analyze state data. Rather, in the proofs of concept, we had very specific tools that we were testing out. In this next phase, we're now getting general tools and giving them to state employees and letting them discover how they can best use those tools to improve taxpayer or service to Californians. Anyway, with that, Governor Newsom knows that improving government efficiency isn't only about technology, but he also knows that it's very difficult to meet the expectations of today's Californians with technology that may be 10 or 20 years old. So we're giving our team the tools they need to deliver to Californians the services that they need. And with that, let me introduce a man who needs no introduction, our Governor, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having us here. We appreciate it. And all the, I appreciate, I don't know if you're working back there or this is part of the job, but thank you to the Accenture employees that are here in the background, and thank you for your engagement, and thank you for being part of this. We're announcing a new partnership with you and partnership with a number of other employers and Gen AI leaders in this state, but I'm very grateful and humbled by the opportunity to be here with you. I want to thank Audrey in particular. For those of you who don't know, Audrey is a big deal. Audrey is one of the world's leaders in this space, and Audrey has been foundational in terms of establishing a framework of expectation that allowed us to dream big and be bold in terms of what we are announcing today and what we're sharing with you. I want to thank Tino for his stewardship and leadership, for being there in the beginning and having our back at Carnegie in partnership with the McGruin Institute and others, and a number of other philanthropic partners that helped establish the platform, Engaged California, that Tino was referencing. I want to thank Tokes for his leadership in stepping up. There's not a Secretary of Transportation in the United States of America, by definition, doing more with Gen AI than his agency, period, full stop. Nothing is happening in the United States of America at the scale and scope that is happening here in the state of California. So I appreciate, Mr. Secretary, your leadership. And as Nick laid out, his leadership in his former role at the Department of Tax and Fee Administration, and now running government operations, and now responsible for a larger portfolio of agencies and department heads. I'd be remiss, and I'll get to my comments, but I want to also just acknowledge Amy Tong, who has been our principal leader she's brought fans with her on all of this, and it is stitching together all of these pieces. And I say stitching together because, candidly, this is hard to communicate for many of us. It's hard to disseminate for the media, and it's hard to distill the essence for the public. I could have easily come in here with sunglasses and, chainsaws, you know where I'm going, and gotten your attention. I could regale you and give you stories about how we're tearing things down. And we can celebrate the conflict and the energy and that would run with the news, and people feel like, well, at least they're doing something. And people would say, well, you know, they seem to be taking action. Government is bloated, it's not effective, it's not efficient, it's not engaged. We want to shake the machine. And that's a pretty effective communication strategy. There's no doubt about it. I was sitting literally on Sunday, front court of my 9-year-old's basketball game, and a father up to me said, you know, Gavin, I didn't want to talk politics. It was the kids' halftime. He goes, but, you know, is there something, you know, wouldn't it be good if the blue states would come together and do a Doge? A Doge for blue states. I know. And I was trying to explain. I said, what do you mean? I said, no, let me explain. He goes, no. What is it? I said, well, we have been. He goes, well, you really should do that. I said, no, we have been. He goes, I really encourage you to do this. And I started explaining what we were doing, and his eyes glazed over. He wants to see the chainsaw. He wants the sunglasses. He wants the theatrics, the performative side of this. He wants the friction. He wants the protests, because then it's a proof point of the concept. Without that, he struggles, and without that, we have struggled to communicate this. Let me give you a proof point. The announcement we're making today was done in partnership with state workers and employees. They're celebrating it because we're not doing things to them, we're doing things with them. SEIU 1000, one of the largest bargaining units in the state of California, they helped us design this. That's the difference to our approach. And by the way, it's an approach we began not in response to Doge. When we got here 6 years ago, one of my first acts was to remind people that I wrote a book on this subject matter. I'm not here to promote it, but you can buy it. The best way to buy it is in bulk. Citizenville, how to take the town square digital and reinvent government. And it was inspired by the original Doge back when I was very engaged as a county supervisor with then former Vice President Al Gore and the work they did on reinvent government. And it inspired me. I remember Al Gore working with me as a candidate, and we did something called Great Cities, Great Ideas, and it was really about taking best practices. And we did a white paper on this. And I brought that in some of the work I did in the county of San Francisco, and efficiency plans, and customer service plans, and strategic plans, and focusing on outcomes. As Lieutenant Governor, I put this book together, my thoughts, as it relates to platform thinking, not machine thinking. I was inspired by this guy, David Kettle, who wrote a piece which to this day is perhaps the best piece about government. He said, government is nothing more than a vending machine. You vote, we decide. And you get limited choices. Police, fire, healthcare, education. If you don't like the machine, you shake the machine. You kick the machine. And his argument was government needs to be a platform thinking. And really radically changed my approach to the way I thought about government. Effective, efficient, more engaged government. Not you vote, I decide, two-way conversations. So this engaged.ca.gov platform we've created, first of its kind in the country, inspired by the work in Taiwan, is about engaging you, particularly here in LA as it relates to the wildfire recovery. And it's a deliberative process. It's a process, by the way, that over the course of just the last few months has now received over 7,400 individuals that want to participate in it. We have a 28% conversion rate to people that signed up, to people that are participating in it. Industry standards about 5%, and it's proving that people do want to be engaged between elections. And they don't all want to be engaged in a town hall or lining up with other voices because some people are just a little more timid. Some people want more choice as it relates to how they engage in deliberative process. So Engaged California is a process that continues to unfold and a process that will conclude in about 5 to 6 weeks. And it's a process that's already proven its success. We have engaged thousands of people. They have engaged each other, and now they'll be in the final phase of a deliberative process to build consensus around what they want to see as it relates to the recovery in Altadena and Palisades. But that's one component part The broader part is the introduction of generative AI and doing it at scale to solve some of the most vexing problems in this state. And we went through a process where we were able to do this because we changed our procurement process years and years ago, something called RFI2, which is just a fancy way of saying innovation ideas, the two, a request for innovative ideas. And it's a sandbox. Rather than going through a long process, as Tokes was describing, that takes years and years and years on RFI, RFQ, RFP, request for proposals, lobbyists getting involved, and people, frankly, protecting incumbency, we created a sandbox to iterate, and people are able to iterate in real time. That's what led to nation-leading technology in firefighting. We announced all that a couple days ago. People always say, well, you need to do more in technology in firefighting. Well, people travel the world to see California's leadership as it relates to the introduction of artificial intelligence and what we're doing as it relates to real-time monitoring and predictive analysis through TechnoSilva and other partners that we have in the space. So we're taking that same mindset in the RFI2 frame into the Gen AI space. Yes, aided by another executive order, but now it's happening. And it's happening at a scale, again, not happening in any other state in the country. And what Nick just referenced is a component part, and I'll close on this. That now we're also engaging in this sandbox with all kinds of AI partners. It's piloted just in these 8 departments. It will spread out more broadly, where everybody's in, where Gemini is in, which is Google, where AWS and Amazon is in, where the folks at OpenAI are in, and others, and employees can start to iterate and choose what they want, learn how these technologies can aid and advance their work to make them more productive, to make them happier, and to provide more choice and more voice for customers, end users, taxpayers in the state. And so that is an exciting space that is a preview into the future that is taking place and shape here first in the state of California. So we talk about this as the 3 E's. E3, we can call it, as it relates to being more efficient, yes, more engaged, and more effective, because at the end of the day, it's about outcome, and it's about results. And so across the spectrum, that's our framework, that's our mindset. We've been at this for years and years and years, billions and billions of dollars of savings, partnerships that have led the nation in terms of paperless transactions, in terms of technological advancements, in terms of the customer service that has been provided, and efforts that continue to this day through generative AI and in tomorrow that will, I think, produce results worthy of your tax dollars. So forgive the long-windedness. This is exciting stuff, but it's hard to communicate in a way that can break through the 5 o'clock news. That said, this is about traffic, LA. So if you care about traffic, you care about getting to work on time, getting home, getting the kids, then pay attention. Gen AI has come to traffic management in this state in a way that doesn't exist in any other state in America. With that, we're happy to take any questions. Thanks.
To that point, how do you communicate this? I mean, what exactly are you doing today, and how will it specifically make the lives better of the average person in California?
Well, with Tino and others, we're actually having a big roundtable on Engaged California, because we want to take that model, that process of a deliberative democratic model. We want to take it well beyond just wildfire recovery here in Los Angeles. It's interesting, and Audrey can talk about this. This started as an idea in Taiwan, I think, around the issue of Uber versus taxis. And government said, well, what do the people think? And they said, well, we'll just do a poll. And they said, no, a poll is sort of static. Why not have a deliberative process? They said, how do you do that? Town hall? It's a country. They said, no, well, let's use a digital platform, engage everyone in the country, and have this two-way conversation. And that inspired a whole movement that has now inspired our movement in this space, and we want to extend it in all other areas of our democracy here in California. But Audrey, maybe you can explain just a little bit more, because I think this is really fascinating, just that first process as it relates to Uber versus taxi, the past versus the future.
Thank you, Governor. So to your question, I think first of all, in Taiwan, when we talked about the Uber issue, we do not use abstract like, is this extractive or is the sharing economy? What's the future of ride sharing? Nothing like that. We simply ask people one very simple question. How do you feel if somebody with no professional driver license driving to work, picking up stranger they met on the app and charging them for it? And so something very specific. And we ask for people's feelings because people are experts in their feelings. And very quickly, we visualized that some people feel sympathetic to the taxi driver, some people to Uber, some people to the rural places, so on and so forth. But the great thing about this kind of bridge making or pro-social media is that it showed what are the uncommon grounds, the common ground that was hidden in plain sight. For example, the software analyzed it with AI and showed everybody loves surge pricing, but not undercutting existing meters, and so on and so forth. The more nuanced idea came to the top, and instead of the more polarized things being, amplified by the engagement through enragement algorithms on social media, this is the pro-social algorithm that just upholds the bridges made by the people. And so by the end of the 3 weeks, we have a set of 9 very concrete proposals, and then we check with all the stakeholders. And as recently as last year, we also use the same process to deliberate about generative AI's harm, namely deepfakes, fraudulent advertisement, and so on. And again, working with Facebook and YouTube and so on, we settled on a set of very coherent proposals, crowdsourced by us sending SMS text message to 200,000 random numbers in Taiwan, basically asking again, how do you feel about online fraudulent advertisement? That was in March, the stakeholder conversation in April, and we proposed the draft law to the parliament in May, and last July it was all passed. And so this year, when you scroll in Taiwan, you don't see fraudulent advertisement anymore on Facebook or YouTube. But all that is because the people collectively drawn the Overton window, what was to be expected to overcome this urgency without the government overstepping on censorship or things like that. People had very sensible suggestions like KYC and so on and so forth. So I think the 2 keys here are the shared common urgency and also the air cover, the pre-commitment from the president or the government to really consider the uncommon ground coming from the people. Thank you.
So I don't know, this is exciting stuff because it goes to the central question we're all asking ourselves, how the hell can we work together? How do we get along? All these people screaming and yelling, talking past each other, down to one another. How do we find consensus? This is the how. And so we're in the how business, not in the what and why business any longer. And we've created this platform. And it's exceeded expectation already in LA just on this regional wildfire issue. And imagine putting that to use in the largest subnational democracy in the United States, California. And I think it's pretty exciting and limitless possibilities.
But to that question of how do you get along, you and Elon Musk used to get along pretty well back in the day.
Yeah.
How are you getting along now? Have you talked about any of these concepts?
This is what happened. This is why I need my chainsaw. No, I haven't talked to him lately. Unsurprising, but a lot of folks that knew him for decades haven't talked to him lately. I've talked to a lot of those folks, comparing notes, and hopefully he comes back around. I feel like he's been, there's some new challenges he's facing, and I think, one of them is fulfilling the expectations that he set for Doge, which seem unfulfilled. They haven't come close to the savings they've asserted. And even the savings they have asserted, when you stress test it, shows holes. So I think it's been very damaging, including, by the way, the fact that Doge cut $400 million from AmeriCorps. That was SARS Shriver in 1965. The best of people coming together across their differences for shared experiences in service to our nation. That was a baton that was passed from Republican administrations, Democratic administrations, just eliminated, wiped out $400 million while we're advancing our 16th lawsuit against the administration. If that's his legacy, it's tarnishing the legacy that he should otherwise be proud of, creating one of the world's great automobile companies and rocket companies.
You reference Elon Musk and Doge. A lot of people are going to see this and think about
I know. We're Doge, but better. And we've been Doge, but better for literally 6 years. You can go back. There's amazing that we still have the tapes of our announcements around ODI and all of these reforms and efficiencies that we've been advancing for years and years and years. It's just, again, difficult to sort of break out of that, the attention challenge. And again, we want conflict. We want friction. And this is why I'm really proud of this. We haven't provided that because we've been doing it with people, not to people.
Governor, your reaction regarding President Trump's executive order yesterday against sanctuary cities and states, are you concerned with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he needed to do his own analysis. It's well described, the number of sanctuary municipalities, jurisdictions, states across this country that have existed for decades and decades, generation. But obviously we're concerned. What does he mean to do with this executive order? Identifying sanctuary status hardly is novel, is the point. So it's what's his intention behind it? We know there was an effort. San Francisco led the effort to push back with other cities to begin the process of starting to defund sanctuary jurisdictions. But well established. I've got one of the world's leading minds when it comes to courts, his honor himself. But the Ninth Circuit adjudicated upholding California's sanctuary status a number of years ago, and that same judge used that frame, that appellate decision, federal court decision, to allow an injunction to be filed on behalf of San Francisco and these other cities as it relates to Trump's latest efforts. So we'll see what the intent is ultimately, but we're not naive, and we remain vigilant.
Do you have an idea of how much funding could be at risk for the state?
California's sanctuary status is legal, period, full stop. We apply rigor to aligning ourselves with federal law. And again, that was stress-tested independently by the federal courts. And they upheld our point of view and our sanctuary status. So I think we are in good sound footing. That said, it's a very hyper-political environment, and he's trying to score political points. But our job is to remind communities of their rights, to remind our diverse communities that we have their back. And I'm here to remind you that the reason I called for this special session in the state legislature was to do just that. And we appropriated resources. That's why we've been able to file 16 lawsuits without supplementals to the Department of Justice. And also remind you that component part of that was millions and millions of dollars for legal defense for our diverse communities, money that just, by the way, notices of funding availability that went out last week specifically because of the special session, and to continue to do more in terms of our protecting our diverse communities, and again, doing what we can to assert ourselves as only California can, as the largest state in our union, and push back aggressively.
Governor, it's the president's 100th day. I know you've spent a lot of time thinking about, especially with the podcast, having conversations about how effectively to work with them and how effectively to push back.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what have been the big things you've learned from some of those conversations in terms of where to go on that front?
Well, look, I'm not naive. We're here in L.A. We have a lot at stake here in terms of federal support. I also think it's important to remind you and your viewers, California is a donor state, $83.1 billion more. We provided the federal government provided us. I'll put that in perspective. Texas received $71.1 billion more than they provided the federal government. I'll repeat that. $83 million the taxpayers of California gave the federal government. The federal government gave $71 million more to the folks in Texas. We punch way above our weight. It was Mark's opening statement. And so we feel we've done a lot, and we feel the people of Southern California deserve that support in return at a time of emergency. So our approach remains steady after 100 days, open hand, not a closed fist when it comes to these areas that are non-political. For me, when it comes to emergency preparedness, emergency management, emergency response and recovery, that's not political, it's non-negotiable, and you saw that approach as it relates to Trump and COVID in relationship to the 2 years I served as governor under his first administration. As it relates to our values and the question that was just asked around diverse communities and attacking vulnerable communities, we'll stand tall, we'll stand firm. Going after things we hold dear across the spectrum of issues, from environmental stewardship to areas around service and the contributions of our diverse communities, we will assert ourselves, and we'll do it boldly and firmly. And so that's the approach. We're trying not to be performative. We're trying not to extend sort of virtue signals. When something is critical and important, we'll assert ourselves. Otherwise, we try to sort of avoid moving in too many distracted directions.
Last question. Governor, you mentioned the wildfire relief. Are you satisfied with the federal response, and are you worried about the future?
Well, I'm not only satisfied, I've been inspired by the partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, by the federal EPA. We were able to move more quickly with phase 1 of the hazardous debris removal than any jurisdiction in decades, and we're on pace to do the same as it relates to the main debris removal, getting that done in a number of months, which would be historic and unprecedented. So at the moment, I'm extraordinarily satisfied by that partnership. There's been no politics to date in this space, and you've got to call balls and strikes. And I want to also just make this point. I spent 90 minutes with the president in the Oval Office. And I don't think this, I know this. He put the EPA administrator on a speakerphone, surprised him, got him at the airport, and said he was here with the governor of California, and he wanted to know the president right then and there. He was going to do everything in his power to get things done for the state. That the president, long-winded point, the president himself has been directly engaged and supportive of the recovery efforts to date. And that's remarkable, and that's important. The people of the state know. Going forward, as it relates to the supplemental and making sure that we're made whole, we look forward to continuing to dialogue with the administration, and we're hopeful that past is prologue.
Are there any lessons to be learned from Elon Musk's theatrics? I mean, in terms of communicating, is there anything to think about?
Look, I think we joke about the theatrics of a uniform or something, but I think the most difficult thing is when you're tearing something down, it's easy to get attention. Easiest thing in the world is tear something down. I can do all that in 10 days. I don't even need 100 days to tear everything down. It took decades and decades to build up. Building things is hard. Starting from scratch, improving things, reforming things. That's what we're promoting. Efficiency, engagement, better outcomes and results. That's real work. And so I think my reflection is that's unfortunate, because the amount of outsized attention that's gotten versus the attention builders are getting and people are trying to build bridges and bring people together is disproportionate. There's an asymmetry there, and that's a broader societal conversation, and candidly, that's what engage.ca.gov hopes to address. A new deliberative platform to provide consensus, more voice, more choice, and trust, the coin of the realm. Thank you guys very, very much. Thanks.